Oh goodness, it's cold out here. What are you doing?
Oh, hey, Kim. I'm actually harvesting collard greens right now because we just had a frost.
Oh my, good. I want to make some traditional New Year's collard greens. Can I help?
Sure, help me harvest the tender collard greens to welcome in prosperity for the new year.
Great, okay.
Hi, my name is Catherine Wills, the Assistant Garden Specialist at the Poe Center.
Hi, I'm Kim Major Walker. I'm a health educator here at the Poe Center.
And welcome to the GrowWELL Garden. Today in the GrowWELL Garden, we'll be harvesting collards. These collards are perfect to harvest now because we just had a frost.
Okay. So how easy is it to grow collards?
Collards are super easy to grow. They're actually a really easy crop to grow for the winter time.
So I could grow this at home?
Yes, you can. You can grow these in your backyard. When you harvest collards, you want to harvest the exterior leaves first, simply by clipping them, or you can actually snap them with your fingers.
So why is it better to harvest after a frost?
So collards actually have a really cool defense mechanism where when it freezes, they actually turn starches into sugar to protect themselves from freezing. So we get a result of tender greens, and the collard green plant actually protects itself from freezing. Also, when harvesting leaves, I usually use my hand as a reference of when the leaf is ready to harvest. So if the leaf is bigger than my hand, it is ready to be picked and harvested.
Definitely bigger than my hand.
Yes. You actually want space for the younger leaves to, grow out.
Okay, that makes sense. So let me so you just snap it? Oh, perfect. Look at that. I did it. Harvesting collard greens for the first time. Catherine, can you help me take these greens inside so we can start cooking our holiday greens?
Sure, let's get out of the cold.
Okay, welcome to the GrowWELL kitchen. Thank you again for this wonderful harvested collard greens. But in order for us to cook them for our holiday traditional collard greens, we need to wash them.
All right.
Thanks, Catherine.
So Kim, can you tell me how we wash collard greens?
Sure. What I do is I take the whole leaf of the collard greens and I dip it into the water so that we cover the green. And the reason we do that is because, remember, we harvest this green from our garden, which has dirt that could be at the bottom of the stem, or in some cases it might even be a little sandy depending on where your garden is. So one of the things is you want to make sure that when you get ready to prepare your greens that you wash them well, because there's nothing worse than a sandy collard green.
I know that's right.
Okay, Catherine, we just finished washing the greens in a sink with cold water. Basically, all I did was make sure that I soaked the greens in the cold water and used my hand to remove any loose sand or dirt. My mother, though, she likes to use salted water to do the same thing, to remove the sand and dirt, but using a salted water solution. What does your family like to do?
My dad actually uses baking soda to wash his collards.
Yeah, so he's using basically a base salt solution to do pretty much the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once we wash the collard greens, then we have to remove the green leaf from the stem. What I like to do is I like to take a knife and I just cut along the stem line, and then I separate the greens this way. What do you do?
I actually remove the stem from the leaf by just pulling it apart.
Well, that is a great way for kids to help with preparing the greens. They could actually come in and use their hands to separate the stems from the leaves, and then there's no risk of them cutting themselves with a knife.
Yeah, and that involves all the family.
I agree. Once we separate the leaves from the stems, then we have to we take about 4 or 5 different leaves And then we roll it into basically like a bedroll. You roll it into a bedroll. And then once you do that, you will then start to cut them. And you just cut them to 1/2 an inch to 1 inch. It all depends on what size you like, but basically you just cut them. And then once you've cut them, you have ribbons of collard greens that you gather in a bowl. The next thing we need to do is we need to cut up or mince our onion and our garlic that's going to go into our recipe. Now our recipe calls for 3 cloves of garlic, but since we have a good amount of double of the amount of collard greens, then we're going to increase our garlic cloves to 6 garlic cloves. We're going to use a whole onion. And so we're ready to start cooking our collard greens. So what we're doing today is we're cooking a vegetarian version of the collard greens. But traditionally, when people are preparing their collard greens for the New Year's celebration, they use some form of a smoked meat. So they may use, what kind of meats have your family used?
We use ham hock, smoked turkey leg. That's my favorite.
Okay, and my family does the same thing. They use a ham hock, and what they do is my mom cooks it in a pot with broth, cooks it down, then she takes the meat off, and then she'll add the greens. But today we're just doing a vegetarian version, and in order to get that smoke flavor, towards the end of the cooking process, we'll add something called liquid smoke, and that'll give you that extra smokiness that you crave when you have a smoked meat. What we were doing is we're adding 2 to 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil to our pot. And so the reason we're using vegetable oil, because I said we're preparing this in a vegetarian style. So we're gonna let that oil heat up a little bit, and then I'm gonna add the onions, let those cook for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'll add the garlic to that and let that cook. You're gonna cook the onions and the garlic until they're translucent, but to get a little bit of that flavor to the onion and garlic, I'm gonna cook it just a little bit longer so they're a little brown, and that'll help add to the flavor of the broth that we're trying to create with the greens. I'm gonna add in some salt and pepper, because you should always add a little salt and pepper. I'm gonna add in a little bit of red pepper flakes, just a small amount, because that's gonna give it a little spiciness. So the broth is gonna help create the gravy that we want in the bottom of the pan. So this is vegetable broth. If you don't have vegetable broth, you can use water. The thing about using the water is you're gonna wanna keep tasting it, because you wanna make sure that the broth is flavorful for the greens. And now we get to add in the greens. And you just add them in handfuls, that's all. And then you just cover it and let it go. And it looks like a lot of greens, but this is gonna cook down to a much smaller amount. So, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get them all in there. Think we can get a little more? Probably.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got it all in.
We have the top, right?
Yes, we do. So we've got it all in there. And now we're just gonna cover the pot and just let this simmer. And it's gonna take probably about a half an hour for this to fully cook, but we're gonna check it periodically to see how it's doing.
So Kim, now that the collards are cooking, can you tell me the significance of collards and why we cook them during this time of year?
Sure. Collards are eaten traditionally on New Year's Day because it is believed that if you eat collard greens, then you will have wealth and prosperity in the coming year. So the origin of the collard greens actually dates back to the 1800s, when enslaved Africans were only given a small plot of land to grow vegetables for their family. So what they did was they grew collard greens. So collard greens became like a comfort food for them, and therefore it's been a Southern tradition to eat collard greens on New Year's Day in hopes that you will have financial prosperity. thanks everyone for joining us today as we prepared our collard greens in preparation to celebrate the new year.
And Kim, I don't want to wait any longer to enjoy these collard greens. So,
don't forget to stay Poe Fit.
Want to learn more about gardening or looking for garden to kitchen resources? Check us out online at poefit.org and poehealth.org. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. See you next time.